Thank you very much. Once again, welcome everybody and good morning to the inaugural session of LKNOG. And on behalf of the organizing committee, we have set up a very interesting set of functions and speeches for you to share the knowledge of the industry experts in Sri Lanka and also outside Sri Lanka. Our colleagues are here from abroad to share with you a lot of knowledge. And to start the function ceremonially, I would like to invite special guests coming here to grace our event. Firstly, I would like to invite Professor Gihan Dayas, a pioneer of internet in Sri Lanka and the CEO of LK Domain, and also a faculty member of University of Moratuwa, and Mr. Udalgama, Rohit Udalgama, CEO and MD of Lanka Communications, once again a pioneer in the internet industry in Sri Lanka, and Mr. Jayantha Fernando, Director Legal of ICTA Sri Lanka, Dr. Nimal Ratnayaka, Director of APAN and also a faculty member of University of Peradeniya, Dr. Ajit Pascual, who is actually the main sponsor, principal sponsor of this event, who is the CEO of Paracom Technologies, and also he is a faculty member of University of Moratuwa, and Mr. Champika Wijayatunga, President of LKNOG, and he's also representing, he's a regional member representing ICANN, Internet Number Authority in the world. So he's a key player in this organization. And Ms. Sagarika Vikramasekara, President of Internet Society, Sri Lanka Chapter. In addition, I would like to call Dr. Ajantha from University of Colombo, UCSC, to come and grace this event with us. And also CEO of TechCert, Mr. Dilip Latsara. Welcome you all, and we will now light the oil lamp, traditional oil lamp, and mark this ceremony opened. I would like to invite the representative from APNIC, one of our own friends, Mr. Pubudu, to come and give us the honor of lighting the lamp also. Sorry for not mentioning your name earlier. Thank you very much. APNIC, representing APNIC. Asia Pacific Network Information Center. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the ceremonial opening of this session. And LKNOG is a pioneering effort of a few individuals, enthusiasts in the network domain in Sri Lanka as well as abroad, who getting together to bring this function, inaugural function, together for you, so that we build a platform for you to share knowledges, experiences, and show what is new in the world in the domain of networking. And this is not only a single function, this is going to be a platform for all of you to interact, where I think we filled a gap of having a platform for us network guys, techies, to share our knowledge and experiences together. So to start with, I will invite the key person behind this, Mr. Champika Wijetunga, who is the president of LKNOG, Lanka Network Operators Group, and also he's an officer from ICANN, regional manager for Asia Pacific region, I suppose. Sorry, I didn't get it. So he will tell you the story about his background. Thank you so much, and Champika, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Asela, for taking care of these formalities. Now, I would really like to welcome you all for the first LKNOG event here in Colombo, Sri Lanka. So I would really, thank you all for making your time, especially on a rainy day as well. And just like what Asela said before, this is not just one individual effort or anything like that. I mean, so many people have contributed for many years, all these years actually. So when you talk about network operations, as you all know, I think most of you are involved in managing your networks, operational aspects and so on. So there are plenty of things, especially in terms of knowledge sharing, capacity building, and also working together, collaborations. So all those things are very important. So from that aspect, it is very, very important for us to actually get together, have some platform in terms of working together in sharing best practices in the network operations. So that's the whole purpose, the objective of this forum. Now, talking about the network operation forums outside Sri Lanka, of course, there are a number of network operational forums happen around the world, especially talking from our region's perspective. We have something called SANOG, the South Asia Network Operations Group, the forum. Then in the Asia Pacific region, we have something called APRICOT, the Asia Pacific Regional Internet Conference on Operational Technologies. That's a long acronym. And then, of course, in different countries, there are some network operational forums as well, including different other regions in North America and so on, and South America, in the Europe and so on, so everywhere. So, so from that aspect, I think it's quite important for us to actually have some sort of forum as well, because all these other forums that I mentioned you before, we don't get much opportunity here in Sri Lanka to, especially the community here, to participate in those events as well. Of course, there are opportunities like fellowships and things like that to go and participate in other network operation forum, but then those are very limited. If you talk about SANOG, the South Asia Network Operations Group, we have had that in Sri Lanka a few times, but over the period of last 18 years or so, I still remember that when Professor Gihan hosted the first, or in fact the SANOG-2, that was back in 2003. And then later Learn hosted the SANOG in 2011. SLT was a key player in hosting SANOG in 2007, and then Learn again in 2015. So we have had like 4 SANOGs over the last 18 years. But really, if you think about the demand and also the number of professionals, number of people who are involved in this community, these sort of few events is not really enough for us to actually have some more, to have some or discuss more about network operations here in Sri Lanka. So that is why it's very important for us to have this kind of platform, this kind of operations group. So we have, there were lots of interested parties and people were giving a lot of interest to contribute as well. So we thought, okay, in fact we are pretty late as well, but we are never late for anything, so let's get started something now. And it's the first time that we are doing the first LKNOG event. So there are lots of supporters, helpers, contributors who have put the effort in so many ways. Especially I would really like to thank our committee. They have put a lot of effort in the last, I would say, we have started discussing about this thing just over a year ago, but this is just initial discussions. But then the real thing all happened in just 1 month before. So this is all effort in the last 1 month what we have put, and again it's a community thing, it's a committee thing, and we haven't and it's a volunteer thing as well. We all work for our organizations, the whole committee, everyone, we all work for our organizations, but we have taken effort and time to put together this program for you, and then talk to various subject matter experts, the speakers, and so on. So hopefully we'll have a good day today, and in the future we want to actually have some more participation from the community, just like yourself, and also we want to build more capacity in the country, and have some new generation, the younger generation, and also women, especially who are working in ICT, to get into these sort of forums and contribute more as well. So these are some of the objectives we have, and hopefully we will be successful in that, and we look forward to that. So with that note, I would really welcome you for your time and effort today, and hopefully you will have a good event during the day, and good luck, and thank you. So with that, I think I will finish my presentation. And also, as you can see, that we are doing everything by our own, so we haven't really got any events management companies or any professionals to even do comparing and things like that. So the committee is doing all that things today by ourselves. So with that note, I want to actually invite our keynote speaker. We have 2 keynote speakers today. The first keynote speaker is Professor Gihan Ddos. So Professor Gihan Ddos, actually you don't really need any introduction about Professor Gihan Ddos, who has been one of the very key important pioneers of internet in Sri Lanka. And so Professor Ddos will be talking to us today about, especially about some of the security aspects, how you can secure yourself, and also how you can secure your customers. So that would be the key message that the Professor Ddos will give today with the keynote speech. And I would welcome Professor Gihan Ddos for the keynote speech. Thank you.
HDMI එක මාරු කරන්න. ෆ්ලෑෂ් එක දාලා ගමු.
USB එකක් තියෙනවා කොපි කරන්නත් පුළුවන් මේ okay that might be easier right so sorry about that so we had to fall back to VGA for somehow the HDMI didn't work so which is I suppose something to do with something as usual. Okay, good morning everybody. So sorry about that delay. Let that be. Okay, just let it be. Right. Okay. Right. So let me talk today about a topic which I'm sure is interesting to you, keeping yourself secure. But actually that's not quite my topic. My actual topic is keeping yourself and your customers secure. So this is a NOG, and the basic idea of a NOG is we are people who run a network on behalf of some kind of customer. Maybe you are a commercial operator, or maybe you run it for your company, but even then you have some customers which are the people who are actually using the networks. So how do we keep not only yourself but your customers, in fact not only your customers, also some other people also secure? So let me ask a question, or maybe a statement. Security is important to a network operator. True or false? So what do you think? I mean, security, is it important to a network operator or not? So I don't know if anybody is willing to answer, but I hope most people would say true, right? Because without security you really cannot run a network, right? You are sooner or later going to get into big trouble. Okay, so then let me ask the next question. What is security? A system is secure. This is my definition of security. Let's see if we can understand that. If you can rely on it to behave as it should behave, right? So what I am trying to say is that if a system is secure, that it should behave in such a way that you expect it, or that it should work. Because if it is not secure, then it might work in a way that it should not work. Right? In fact, maybe it's easy to understand it if you reverse the statement. A system which is not secure will not behave the way you expect it to work, right? So, if a system is to be secure, then it must work the way you want it to work. Of course, this is not practically achievable. Practically, security is not guaranteeable, right? Some people say, can you guarantee that this will work? Right? Can you guarantee security? Of course not, right? You cannot guarantee any kind of security to anybody. But of course, what we try to do is, we try to improve the security as much as possible. So, any system may be attacked by someone, and today it can be attacked by something. Some time ago, we used to think of these hackers as people sitting in front of terminals and typing commands very fast in the middle of the night. Today, they don't do that. They work from 8 in the morning till 5 in the evening and go home and have a good night's sleep. But of course, there are various bots, various devices sitting and doing their work for them 24 hours a day. So, almost always if somebody attacks, if you get attacked, it is very likely it is going to be something rather than someone. So, finally, you can never be sure that your system is secure, right? If I ask anybody, do you run a secure system? They might say yes. So, if I ask them, are you sure that your system is secure? And if they reply yes, I know that he is lying, right? Or maybe he's sure but he's wrong. Maybe he's not lying, but he's wrong, because you can never be sure that your system is secure. But what you need to do is to increase the likelihood that your system is secure. Why are systems insecure then? Right? Why is it that systems may be not secure? One of the biggest problems we have had since the beginning of computing, and is still around unfortunately, although I would say a lot of things have improved, is that many systems are not designed and built with security in mind, right? Especially systems which are designed as standalone systems like DOS, Windows, right? This is security. Why do you need security? It's just a machine. And then suddenly people started connecting these two networks and they found things were not secure. And IoT today is in a similar situation where people who just want, okay, I want this thing to work. Yeah, it's on the internet, but it's okay. They do not even think about security. If you ask them what security features they have put in, they will say something like, oh, we have put in SSH or SSL or something like that. Right? So how does that make it secure? No, if you have SSL, everything is secure. Right? It's many people are not building and designing systems with security in mind. People, and what do you mean by people? We ourselves, all of us in this room, are not aware or often don't care of security implications. Right? We do things which cause security problems. Just this, which cause security problems, and say, well, yes, so what? I don't care. It doesn't really matter to me. And of course, we all believe that it won't happen to me. And we say, so what if something happens? I don't know. Right. So, if you want your systems to be secure, you need to try to avoid each of these things. And now let's see what can be attacked. Well, if you are running a system, a network, a system, whatever, obviously your own system can be attacked. And if you have customers, your customers can be attacked, and also not only yourself and your customers, but the entire world can be attacked. So what? But does it matter? I have some customers, let them get attacked. Right? Does it matter to me? I think as network operators, it does matter. It is your responsibility to protect customers. Right? I think this is true anywhere. If you have customers and through obviously if they are walking on the road and somebody hits them, you can't be bothered. But through your network, if something comes to your customer, you are responsible. And even if officially you think you are not responsible, you may end up having to deal with or use significant resources to deal with an attack. And anyway, an unhappy customer is bad for you, right? You don't want your customers to be unhappy, and by showing that you are taking care of customer security, you tend to get a better type of customer, right? Many corporate customers would look at how much security they are getting before they go for anything else, and some companies really make it a business on providing security for their customers. Right, so now we understand when we are attacked, obviously it's not good. When our customers are attacked, it's not good. But what if somebody else is attacked? Somebody else, we don't care. Well, yes, but if the attack came from your network, you are going to get blacklisted, right? People keep track of where these attacks are coming from, and if they see, first of all, they might stop accepting mail from your address, and then after some time, if you find a lot of things are happening, the entire internet routing may be removed from your address. Then your bandwidth will be used up, and anyway, an unsafe internet is bad for everyone, right? As a network operator, if generally the internet is unsafe and people say, oh, everybody is getting attacked, it is bad for you, it is bad for your business. Right. So I think one of the main things is we need to make sure that not only do we avoid attacks on ourselves and our customers, but also everyone else, especially attacks which originate from your network. So who could attack you? As I said earlier, always the image in our mind is this hacker sitting somewhere, right, inside some dingy room in the middle of the night, in front of a green screen, trying to attack you. But today, many things can attack you, including hardware, right? So there have been innumerable instances of hardware devices which have had various kinds of malware inside it. System software, operating systems have had attacks embedded in them. Application software. Many problems are with application software, either off-the-shelf software, which you today of course you don't buy as such from a shop, you download. Made to order, you get somebody to make some software for you, you build it in-house, or we have another type of software which often people forget. We have user-written software. Software written by individual users, not programmers. And often what are they writing the software in? Excel. Right? Excel is the world's most widely used programming language. Do you know that? The most widely used programming language in the world is Excel. Why? Because there are millions and millions of people who write stuff in Excel. Right? They don't do degrees in programming. They are probably accountants or somebody like that. The problem with most of these user-written programs, some are Excel, but they can be today written in various languages, including Python and Perl and all sorts of things, or R, is that many of these people have no idea at all about security. Zero, less than zero, right? And they could contain all sorts of loopholes, vulnerabilities which would attack you. Then administrators and operators, they could attack users, normal users, and of course outsiders. So most of the time we tend to look at outsiders attacking our system, whereas that is only one of many, many different groups. I wouldn't say people, because many of them today are either hardware or software rather than people who might attack you. And why would they attack you? Sometimes it's just for fun, right? A hacker says, oh, it's nice, I like to attack, or to get points, right? They show off that, okay, they can attack. So if you get hit by one of these people, I think you are lucky, because they are not really there to do serious damage. They just like to get some points and maybe they go away. But of course, we have the others to make money. Today, many of these attackers are actually businesses, right? And they have employees, right? And they are there to make money. And some of them are actually quite legitimate sounding. They say we are, in this business, and they have business cards and all sorts of things. And of course, we have this political or ideological or so-called national security reasons where it is organized groups, maybe governments, who attack. So, how could an attack happen? Right? Let's say you have a system. Right? Let's say I have a phone or a anything, my laptop. What's needed for an attack? First of all, there must be a vulnerability in your system. There must be something which allows people to get into your system. If your system is perfectly, perfect, nobody can get into your system. Of course, you cannot find a system which has no vulnerabilities, but any way you attack must be through a vulnerability. Not necessarily software, hardware, people, many things. Then there needs to be something called a threat agent, whoever is trying to attack you, or something which tries to attack you. And typically they attack in order to get something from you. And today sometimes maybe they just want CPU. They want to use your CPU maybe to mine bitcoins or to go and attack someone else, or they just want your IP address so that they can set up TCP or UDP whatever connections from that IP address. So for an attack to occur, some vulnerability must be exploited by some threat agent, right? If you are going to be attacked, there must be a vulnerability. Without a vulnerability, there cannot be attack, and there must be a threat agent who actually perform the attack. Without it, there cannot be attack. So these two are needed for an attack. Then what is the risk? Not all threats, not all things which could happen to you have the same impact. For example, if you look at any system, I will guarantee you, in fact, if you have your phone right now connected to the internet, I will guarantee you, right now, there are people coming and checking your IP address to see if there are any vulnerabilities. Probably they will check port scans and all that. It's continuous, right? You can never stop it. But of course, nothing really happens most of the time. If you have set up your thing with all your latest patches and whatever, they come, they look and they go, right? There is no real impact. And of course, some threats are less likely to happen. So if you are living in Kandy, probably you don't worry about tsunamis, right? It's just very unlikely. I mean, if there's a tsunami which comes there, then of course probably it's a global catastrophe, and wherever you are, it won't matter. So we say that the risk of something is the product of the likelihood and impact. Likelihood means how likely is something to happen, right? Now we are here next to the ocean. Yes, there could be a tsunami, right? So here maybe the likelihood is slightly higher. And what is the impact? If something happens, what would happen? This whole place can get washed away. So in that case, we can say the risk is likelihood minus impact, and we can look at risk as low, medium or critical, as shown in the diagram here. And generally, what we talk when we talk about risk analysis is say don't worry about low level risks. If your risk is low, okay, say just accept it and keep going. If the risk is medium, then worry about it a bit. But if a risk is critical, that means there is something with a high likelihood and a high impact, then start worrying about what you are going to do about it. Or not start, do something about it. And if you want to reduce the risk, what do? You can reduce the likelihood. Right? Try to avoid what happens. So one of the best advice I could give to reduce the likelihood, our thing is code securely. Make sure your vulnerabilities are eliminated one by one. right? You might not be able to remove every single possible vulnerability, but at least the obvious ones can be removed, right? Or you can reduce the impact. For example, you can hash passwords, right? Even today we see almost daily of people coming and getting hold of plain text passwords, where they have stored passwords on files, and somehow once a file is accessed by somebody, the entire password is there. You should at the very minimum hash them, or I think even hashing is not good enough, but we can talk about details later. Somehow protect it so that even if the file does get accessed, the passwords are protected using some other technology. Right. So we are running out of time, but I'll quickly look at a few types of attacks. Websites are prone to attack because they are facing the outside and they are very visible and often valuable. And there are many ways you can attack websites, and this OWASP comes up with these 10 most critical application security risks. Still they are using the 2013 one, but they might update it soon. And these are the 10. I am not going to go through these 10 one by one. That would be a separate course all by itself. Probably we can organize something like that for LKNOG later. But this shows the type of things which we need to worry about when we have a website. And all of you have a website. Most of your customers have websites. Are they at least, and these are only the top 10, right? They have at least 50 others below that. Are you at least making sure you have addressed these top 10, or at least the top 5, if not the top 10, right? If not, almost definitely somebody is going to attack you. Then the next thing which you should worry about probably is email based attacks. Still, email is a very common way for people to attack you. And there are many types of things. Spam, which of course we are all familiar with. Phishing means you get mails which try to get you to click on sites which are not really what they're supposed to be. Social engineering, where you try to say things which make you believe you are somebody else. And even recently there was something saying some senior people in Homeland Security or somewhere in the US had got emails and they had got fooled by them, but they were actually not from the person they were supposed to be from. Hoaxers, and of course various kinds of malware. Again, I will not go into details because we don't have time today. Then another major type of problem is DDoS. DDoS stands, sorry I should have spelled it out, Distributed Denial of Service Attacks. Using a large number of compromised devices to attack you. This is very easy, right? Due to the large number of devices with easily exploitable weaknesses. Right? Today it's getting worse and worse because people are getting higher and higher bandwidth connections. Even in Sri Lanka now, many people have fiber connections at 100 megabits or 4G connections going up to maybe 20 or so megabits. And they also have lots and lots and lots of devices. Today almost anything you buy tends to have some kind of connectivity, and this is going to get more and more. Right? Very soon you won't be able to buy even say a flower like that, a bouquet of flowers. It will have some kind of network connectivity built into that. Right? And now we have millions of IoT devices and getting worse. Remember, people will use you. So the DDoS has two problems. One is people might all come together, millions of devices, and attack you. Okay, but much more likely you will be used as a bot, as a device to launch attacks against someone else, which is bad for you because your resources are being used, as well as you will get blamed and maybe blacklisted, or even in the worst case arrested for launching an attack. Then the other one, which maybe you can just ask in this audience, who has got affected by ransomware? Okay, nobody's willing to raise a hand, right? But I will guarantee, or I am sure that at least half the people here have, maybe not directly on your particular machine, but within your organization, had a ransomware incident. So typically ransomware encrypts files and asks you for money, often in bitcoins. Sometimes it's just a nuisance, you just sort of clean up and keep going. But in some cases it's a major disaster, because if some of your servers get hit and your major databases get wiped out, it's a problem. So recently we had some student project and suddenly their database had got cleaned up and they were asking for money. Luckily it was a student project and nothing very critical, so we just worked around it. But this could have easily happened to a more critical thing, right? So how do you deal with ransomware? You need to make sure your data is backed up regularly, and of course ensure your backups are protected, right? Remember, backups can also be encrypted and you could be asked for ransom for that as well. Some people forget. If your backups are accessible to your machine to be backed up, then it's also accessible via your machine to anybody who wants to encrypt them and keep offline backups. Then I will very briefly talk about something called Advanced Persistent Threats, APTs. APTs, most attacks are just by people who run around looking for somebody to attack. They don't know who they want to attack, right? Whenever they find somebody who has a particular vulnerability, they attack. But APTs are completely different. APTs are targeted towards particular companies or particular organizations, and often it run over a period of time, months or years. So there have been incidents where people have been using APTs for several years and without taking any real action. They've been just hanging around there waiting for the correct time. They have specific objectives and targets. They want some particular thing to happen and they're willing to wait until the correct time for them to get it. And they take care to remain unobserved and progress step by step towards the objective. So these are some of the stages of an attack. I will very briefly go over them. Reconnaissance means you run around, generally probing, sending IP packets, looking for what is happening. Maybe they will map your network, they will look at the services which are there, and they can do it very gradually. They don't do it on one day. Over maybe period of months, they can slowly come and figure out what is happening. And it doesn't have to be only on the network. They can make phone calls, they can Google you and look up information. They can talk to some employees, maybe ex-employees, right? Catch hold of ex-employee and who's not happy with you and ask, oh, what's wrong with your previous thing? They will say all the problems, right? Write it down. Then scan your network one by one to find what is there. Access a system. Usually many things, they find a system which is quite weak, maybe an older system which has not been updated, and then get into that. Then you escalate, you get worse. Exfiltrate means you start getting data and then you keep on sustaining, you hide and wait, right, looking for more things, and of course you clean up after you so that people cannot see you are there. Right, so how are we doing for time? Am I already over time or? Okay, anyway, when you need your security, before, during and after attack, yeah, many of these things. So I'll just go to the next slide. What I would like to suggest is that security be designed into systems. Right. Of course, if you are buying other people's hardware and software, you don't really know. But especially if you are architecting a system, if you are designing a system, if you are getting software written by for you, make sure that right from day one, security is in there. You cannot build a system and then say, okay, now the system is there, let's go and get a security consultant. And that happened to me fairly recently. Somebody built a system and then they said, okay, can you get somebody to come and look at it and tell us how to improve the security? I said, well, you should have asked that 6 months ago, because once you finish the system, there's no point looking at the security, because you might have to redo the entire system to put security in it. And remember, security features often cause inconvenience, affect performance and add to cost. So you must manage the security versus utility. And it is almost always a bad idea to put too much security, especially for users. Ask them to change passwords all the time. Ask them to do this and add captchas and all sorts of things. They just get annoyed and usually find a way to get around the security. Then finally, incident response. So the best situation would be if you had everything secure and nothing happened to you, but sooner or later something is going to happen, in which case you need to figure out what to do. What do you do when you are hit? How do you get help? Who do you tell? And what are your corporate and legal obligations? Again, I don't have time to go through this in detail, but at least be aware of the questions and see how we can get some answers. Okay, so I will stop there for now. Thank you. Any questions?
Anyone has questions, you can use this mic. Professor, I have a question for you.
Yes, go ahead.
Thinking of network providers, now you said network provider is responsible for the end user security.
Yes.
But for example, say if end user is running his own system, not the network, systems at the end, how can a network provider provide the security? Because it's mostly to the endpoint to enforce his system security.
Right. So let me explain what I meant by that. If your customer is a corporate and they have competent people, I think you don't need to really worry too much. But what I'm really concerned about is either individual customers or small customers who don't really have any security people and have no idea about security. So they may be running, as you said, endpoints, they may be running their own servers, but their password may be ABC123, right? And I know plenty of people whose passwords are ABC123. No, sorry, that's wrong. ABC at 123, right? That is the password. ABC at, and as soon as you put the at sign, it becomes a secure password, right? I don't know. Many people believe that if you have an at sign in a password, it's a secure password. Okay. So those are the people I am concerning. People whose password are ABC at 123. You need to, I think, make sure that there is some help given to them to ensure security. That's what I was trying to say.
Any other questions? Okay, I think, Professor, maybe we can meet between lunch and between tea breaks, and then you can talk with him, whatever you want to ask with him, and then we'll go for the next session, next item in the agenda. So we had another keynote lined up, but by Rohit Agama, but since he's not here, we will now take the tea break.
Put into in making this event a big success. So now I would like to invite our next keynote speaker, that is Rohit Udalagama. So he's here now, and I knew Rohit for many years, for a long time, and he also has been one of the pioneers of the commercial internet in Sri Lanka for a very long time. And so with that, I think he will share his experience, especially from an operator's perspective, over the years, how the internet has evolved in Sri Lanka, right? So with that, I would like to invite Rohit, and he's the CEO and the Managing Director of Lanka.com. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rohit.
Okay, before I start, I must thank the organizers for inviting me for this event. In fact, I feel it's a great privilege to be here with so many people, known people, and also a few not people I have not met earlier. When Champik asked me to make a presentation on the evolution of the commercial internet in Sri Lanka, I must confess that I was a little bit not very comfortable, mainly because, see, as Sri Lankans, we are looking very much at the past and historical things. We still talk of the things that we did in earlier era during the period of Dutugamunu, period of Parakram Bahu, how the good old days were, how good they were. We are living in the past. But today, if you take the whole industry, everything has changed a lot. And there is a huge, almost paradigm shift in everything we are doing. And therefore, I was wondering whether it is even worth kind of looking at the past, because whatever we learn from the past has no relevance today. If you take about 10 years ago, I think it was good to know the history, because everything changed in a sort of a evolutionary manner, so little by little things changed. But today, there's a complete shift. For example, let me just share a small thought. I saw some of the people from Airtel. A few years ago, I think last year, we were at a function where there was a very senior person from Airtel making a presentation. He said that Airtel now, we don't look at a 5-year plan and 1-year budget and all these things, because things are changing so much. See, earlier every company had a 5-year plan. Japanese companies, they say, had a 100-year plan. But today you can't do those, because technology is changing so fast, everything is changing so fast. In India, why Airtel said they don't have these plans is, this company called Reliance came up with this service called Jio. They gave it absolutely free of charge for more than 1 year. I mean, it is shocking, because this is a mobile service, 1 year free of charge. Never heard of, because normally you give a service for 1 week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, but for 1 year, never heard of. Of course, Reliance is a huge company. It's a petrochemical company. They have huge cash. They wanted to buy the market, and this strategy worked. Within 1 year, they made a customer base of more than 100 million people. You have to, of course, take it in the context of India, where there are more than 1 billion people. But within 1 year, they made a customer base of 100 million, which Airtel, which is also a very, very successful company, in less than 20 years, they have become one of the top 10 operators in the world. They took about 7 or 8 years to build this 100 million customers. So they built this thing. Then they said, okay, now we are going to charge. After they decided to charge, then suddenly again this Reliance guy came with this Jio. They said, now we are going to give you a free handset. Anybody who is a Jio customer, Reliance Jio customer, we are going to give you a handset absolutely free of charge. Only a small thing, they said you have to make a deposit of, I believe, if I am not mistaken, 3,500 Indian rupees. That's about 10,000 Sri Lanka rupees, an affordable amount. It's not an unaffordable amount. They said no cash at all. Only thing is, you have to give the deposit with us for 3 years. You get the handset free. During that time, you can use the service. And then voice calls on the Jio network, absolutely free. You have to only pay for the data. Marked up the complete market in India. I mean, profitable companies became unprofitable overnight. The whole market went berserk. And see, the strategy of Jio, by giving the handset and taking a deposit rather than charge you for the handset, is a fantastic thing. Because in this thing, like let's say they have 100 million customers, if just 1 million or 10% of their base took that offer, they will make around 35 billion Indian rupees they will make. And if you take in dollars, it's about $500 million. It's like what we do for Sri Lanka does for an international bond issue. We issue about 500 million. These guys collected. The beauty of it is, because this is a deposit, you don't pay any taxes and all. But the company can use the money. And for any company, to run a company, you need cash flow. It doesn't matter how you get it, and this one you have got free cash. You don't have to pay anybody any interest. You don't have to do anything. Only thing, after 3 years, they are supposed to refund it. But then after 3 years, I'm sure they'll come up with another scheme, maybe give another phone free. I don't know. But this is the thing, they completely changed the whole market in India. So like this in every industry, everywhere you have complete changes, unimaginable things are happening. And these things started happening in the last 3-4 years. Not earlier, everything changed. Like when I came to the telecom industry in 1992, basically technology changed every about once in 10 years. But today everything is changing within 6 months, within a year, things are changing. So these why I was wondering whether it is even worth looking at historical things. Other side of it, you take even in other places, complete unimaginable things are happening. If you take in US, who would have thought that Donald Trump could have been the president of US? I mean, even still I'm shocked thinking that American people voted for a person like this. But it happened and he's there. Of course, it's an entertainment value for us because every day we look at TV, we see something, he had done some crazy thing, we get entertained, but then there is this shock element that such a person has become. So in every industry, you take across the board, things are happening which nobody imagined will happen earlier. So this is why I was actually thinking, is it even worth looking at the past? But then anyway, this is the charter for mandate for me today. So what I will try to do is I'll share with you some of the key developments that happened in the Sri Lanka market with the internet, and maybe what is the current situation, and perhaps we'll take a few questions and try to have a discussion which might be a better situation than just looking at the historical things. So if I take the early days, I took 1980 as just a benchmark. It has no significance at all, the date. The significant thing in Sri Lanka is the economy actually changed in 1977, when the economy of Sri Lanka from independence time, which has been like a socialist oriented economy, was opened out and liberalized. Prior to 1977, in the whole of Sri Lanka, there are only 7 computers or 10 computers at maximum. These were large mainframe computers. Dominant player was IBM. ICL was there, but I think ICL is no more in business today. It is a lost venture. If you take from the communication side, the whole of Sri Lanka had, I think, around 75,000 telephone lines. Getting a telephone line at that time was a challenge. You have to bribe people, you had to get letters from ministers. It was an impossible thing to get a telephone. So this was the era before 1977. There was nothing called data communications. After liberalization of the economy, actually in 1980 only the ICT business really took off. At that time we don't call it ICT, we used to call it data processing. And then before ICL and IBM were the dominant players, but other computer vendors came. Even at this point, PCs were not heard of. Mini computers were there. And there were small systems, proprietary systems done by a company called Radio Shack and Commodore. Apple II had just been launched in US and few had come to Sri Lanka. But still there was the PC business had not really taken off. In Sri Lanka, one of the big developments was at this time, Telecom started this 150,000 line project, which was a very big project at that time. Today it is nothing because today we have millions of lines. At that time this was a huge project, and telephone lines became little bit more available. Still there was no mobile industry till towards the end of the 1980s. Few banks wanted to get data communications, and then the only method, because telephone lines were very expensive and difficult to get, was to go for a radio link. And a company called Electrotex, Mr. Abeyewardena, he started providing this service. He is the really true pioneer of this data business. He started providing data communication, point-to-point and point-to-multipoint links. So this was the very early time. Still, internet was not a known entity yet. Even in US, I think it was not known. The real liberalization of the telecommunication industry started in Sri Lanka in 1991, when the government decided to open up the telecom business. Because prior to that, telecom was a monopoly business of Sri Lanka Telecom. Celtel had already started providing mobile communications, but it was like a very limited service, very expensive. Call was like 25 rupees, the incoming call, outgoing call was 25 rupees. The mobile equipment was like, we called it a brick, huge piece of equipment. I think now they are only in museums. Many of you would never have seen those equipment. So this is how it started. In 1991, they gave out licenses, first for data services, and the first two companies to get licenses was Lanka and Electrotex. Both started providing X25 services. By mid 94, Lanka Internet also got a similar license. At that time, still there was nothing called an internet license. What was awarded was a data communication license, and Lanka Internet was the first company to provide internet services in Sri Lanka. By mid 90s, that is about 1995, both Lankacom and Telecom also started providing internet services. So this is where the internet started off in Sri Lanka. Early applications, actually, even during X25 days, there were people coming and asking for connectivity. At that time, not actually to the internet, people were asking for connectivity to BitNet and things like that. And we used to say, like, we were in the business, we used to say these are only for cheap guys because the service was very cheap, and like X25 was the main service at that time. Early applications was email and file sharing. World Wide Web was still not a big thing. It was just starting off. Line speeds, all of you might be shocked, was actually dial-up 2.4 was the kind of speed, and lease lines were operating at 19.2. I still remember writing proposals, 9.6K high-speed line. Nowadays, if somebody asks 9.6K, I don't think it's easy to even provide such a service. But this is where we started in 1991, 92. But today, if you talk of even 19.2K, nobody will even listen to you today. But this is where we started. International connectivity for all operators was mainly on satellite, because at that time Sri Lanka had only the CMEV3 cable, and capacity was limited, and capacity was humongously expensive. So this is the very early days of internet. By mid-90s, infrastructure became much better, and several companies started providing radio networks, both point-to-point and point-to-multipoint. In 2000, we launched the Sri Lanka Internet Exchange. Prior to that, what happened was there were about 5 or 6 companies providing internet services. Each one actually was sending, even if you send a mail, let's say from Lanka Internet to Lankacom, the mail would go to a US or hub in Singapore or somewhere and get routed to us. So there was a huge wastage of bandwidth, which was very, very expensive at that time. So in 2000, we started the Internet Exchange, which was actually quite an achievement, because this matter had been discussed for about 4 or 5 years. And by putting this, we saved a lot of money for the country in terms of foreign exchange saving, plus also huge efficiency for the operators, because now the traffic was routed locally. Again, at that time, of course, I must confess, the main use of this was for mail, because still the World Wide Web and kind of web access as we know today was not there at that time. Then further developments took place in the telecom industry. In 2002, I believe, the government decided to completely open up the internet industry, and they awarded what was called a non-facilities-based ISP license. And up to 35 companies took this license. They were very, very cheap. It was like you pay a one-time charge of 3 million rupees and you get a license, and 35 companies took. Of course, I must confess, many of these companies that took this license took it with a bad intention, because at that time there was, if I just deviate a little bit, there was this business called call termination. Because international calls are very, very expensive, operators were looking at alternate methods of delivering traffic to countries. So what happened is there was a huge arbitrage opportunity, because international calls in this era was like 40-50 rupees a minute. whereas a local call might be about 10 rupees. So what was happening is people were taking the traffic on internet and delivering as a local call, so you were making that arbitrage opportunity. So many of these 35 guys thought by getting an internet license they can do this call termination business. But some did, but not for long, because ultimately it became an illegal business and many of the people had to shut down. Of course, again, there was another set who thought that this is like opening a tap where you get huge money, but none of these things happened. And by mid 2000, telecom started providing ADSL services. Mobile operators went into 3G services, 2.5, 2.5G, 3G. And the space for non-facilities-based ISPs actually completely collapsed. And by the end of 2005-6, all these companies had exited from the business. And in fact, today, I think our company, Lanka.com, is the only company that is a non-PST and telco in the business yet. All other companies have shut down and gone out of business because there is no business today. So if you look at the current situation, now this is where we actually move forward. Today the situation is very good. International connectivity is on fiber. A huge amount of cable capacity is available because we have currently CMEV 3, 4 and 5 in operation. These are controlled by Sri Lanka Telecom, international cables. Huge capacity is available. Then in addition, we have Dialog has their own cable called the Bay of Bengal cable. Then we have also two other cables, the telecom cable to Maldives and the Bharat Lanka cable connecting to India. So with all this capacity, international capacity is hugely available. Like the CMEV 5, I believe the minimum activated capacity is 10 gig. So you can imagine the amount of bandwidth available. Same thing with the Bay of Bengal cable. So internationally, huge bandwidth is available. Within the country also same situation. 3G, 4G is available. 4G is available in most of the urban centers. 3G is available almost island-wide. Minimum, I think a person can get at least one meg connectivity for your mobile, which I think for a mobile is quite enough to do most things. But of course, if you take internationally, they laugh at you. If you say 1 meg, I can remember a few years ago, about 3 years ago, we were in a conference in Singapore and we were talking to the people. And we said very proudly, you know, in Sri Lanka, we have island-wide connectivity, 3G, and minimum is about 1 meg. Singaporean guys were laughing at us. They said, 1 meg, what can you do? We are getting 100 meg to our homes. So then we were completely, I mean, we felt very small because, I mean, we thought 1 meg was good. They said, what is this nonsense, 100 meg? So after some time we were having lunch and I asked the guy, you know, with 100 meg, what do you do? Oh, he said, oh, we are watching high definition movies. Then he himself is telling, you know, the thing in Singapore is our houses are very small. If you want to really see a high definition movie, you need a big screen, at least about 50-55 inch. He said most of our homes cannot accommodate such a screen because the living room is maybe 10 by 10. If you put a screen like this and look at it from 5 feet away, you won't enjoy the 3G capability. So this is where sometimes the technology has gone far ahead of what actually you can make use of. But bandwidth becomes available, people are using it. If you take even today at the consumer level, people are using a lot of video. We couldn't even think of using video maybe not long time ago, even 4-5 years ago, using video was a challenge. But today everybody is looking at YouTube, various other things as a norm. Even uneducated people have started watching teledramas on their mobiles and tabs because it's easily available, and the price also. One of the good things in Sri Lanka is because the competition among mobile operators are very heavy, prices are very competitive, among the cheapest in the world, actually cheaper than in India. So this is where the market is for consumer business, where today it is essentially a mobile broadband. ADSL is there from telecom, but very few homes have a ADSL line. But almost everybody has a 3G or 4G phone now. Enterprise situation, huge bandwidth is being provided. Minimum, I think today we are looking at a corporate getting about 10 meg at least. And enterprise applications, currently, mail still is a very big application, branch connectivity, ERP, and now the big business is to move applications to the cloud. So the moment it goes to the cloud, humongous bandwidth is needed. Like somebody who used like 1 or 2 meg few years ago, today looking at 100 meg or more, because all your brain is in the cloud somewhere. Connectivity is essential, because if you don't have good connectivity, you can't use that your applications that are on the cloud. And also high reliability is being demanded, and that is being met today because technology has improved, quality of service has improved a lot. At the retail level, as consumers, social media is a big thing. Even people who don't know English using Facebook and other things. So it is a huge revolution. And then video is again a big thing. So this is where the current market is. Now let me just take a few minutes and look at maybe what might be in the near future. I cannot predict what might be in the far future, but in the near future, commercial applications surely will be moving to the cloud, because that proposition cannot be matched by anybody. It is a compelling cost plus performance benefit that cloud operators are providing. So many corporates moving to this. I think this is an unstoppable thing. I think many companies that were in the SI business selling servers, other things, actually slowly going out of business because there is no business anymore selling servers. Access speeds we can't imagine. Now there are even corporates asking us, we are providing today 300-400 dem. There are people asking for even 1 gig connectivity. Because the price is a bit high, that has not come to it, but it will come soon. Then in near future, what everybody talking of is Internet of Everything connected. Now this is a little bit of a shocking development. Basically, everything is connected to the net. So basically, we are looking at a situation where your car, your fridge, your home, everything is connected. So as a scenario you might have where you knock off work at 5:30, you get into your car and give a command, take me home. The car actually is able to communicate with all the beacons and everything and finds the shortest and the quickest way to take you home while it is taking you home. Meanwhile, you get some messages from your fridge and other things to say you are running out of this stock, that stuff. You stop at the supermarket, buy those things and you proceed. When you come near the gate, the car sends another signal, the gate opens. You go to your house, the door opens. Maybe their coffee maker has started making coffee for you and things like this. Then the car goes and parks. It figures out that, okay, now we are at the peak electricity time, so it doesn't start charging. Maybe it has been parked in the sun and it is fully charged. It starts discharging so that your current bill goes down. Then maybe late in the night at 2 a.m. in the morning, when it finds that the power is at the cheapest, it starts charging itself and everything is now connected and working. Now when you do this, on the other side, if you go to a supermarket or anything, they give you a loyalty card. And each time you buy, because they give you some points, you actually give the card. Now the supermarkets, shops, airlines, everybody knows your whole game. What you are buying, where you are traveling, how you are living, everything is known. Now after some time, the shocking thing that I feel is, will there be any privacy for any of us? Because everything about you is known. What you buy is known, where you go for a holiday is known, where you travel is known, everything is known. So this is where, as we move and get connected, the challenge is whether these things actually will enable us to live a better life, or whether it will be more constrained. Like, see, for example, I think Champiga knows, in Australia, for the last 15-20 years, most of the roads are connected. So if you break a law, like if you speed or if you cross a red light, automatically you get the fine sent to you, warning from the police or whatever the authority, you have broken this law, you have to pay this fine. And then along with it, you get a demerit point. So the only relief there is that if you are coming to the max of your demerit points, you can send a nominee, your brother or a friend or somebody who has not got, you can send. Because the thing is, the system at that time can only see the number plate, they cannot see who is driving the car. But recently I was reading in China, they have actually put 20 million CCTV cameras at every nook and cranny, they have it. And most of these things are actually enabled with face recognition. So if you go through the red light now, you cannot send a nominee because they actually have your picture. so after some time, the whole system of, monitoring everything will come into place. You will have no privacy at all because everything about you is known. If you break a law, you will get caught immediately, even if you, I can take it to absurd lengths. So this where we are now going to move because technology has enabled all these facilities. So with this type of thought, I will actually conclude my presentation and open up for any questions you might have. Because I didn't want to dwell too much on the past, like I told you, because it's good to know, but no point wasting too much of time on the past, because it's already done and over with. What I challenge you is, yes, the past is good to know, but what we must concentrate is what can we make of the future. That is the more important thing, because technology is moving so fast. Everything is changing so fast. Where can we go? What can we do is the more important thing. And some of it still, we are not in the fully connected world. We have some control without people knowing what we are doing. So with that, I invite some questions. I think I have a few minutes left. If there are any questions, I would like to take them now.
Yes, so are there any questions for Rohit? I think it's very important that we should, especially as operators, I think do clear any of your questions. Anyone? Yes.
Hi Rohit, this is actually a question about Lanka.com itself. Just wondering, when during your presentation, you mentioned that at one point most non-telcos exited the internet service provider market. Now you are still there and you're still going strong. What is your secret to remain?
Sorry, I didn't get it.
When most of the non-service providers exited the ISP market,
Okay.
how did Lanka.com manage to stay in?
Basically at Lanka.com we managed to survive, and in fact even now we are doing pretty well because we actually took a different path to others. One is, of course, we had an infrastructure license, so it enabled us to provide last mile connectivity and other things, which is something that the non-infrastructure ISPs didn't have. They were fully dependent on other operators. Other thing we did different to what normal telcos do is, a normal telco, what they do is they actually build a huge infrastructure and wait for customers to come. What we did was we invested as we went along, which enabled us to control our costs and also insulated us to some extent from technology changes. Like good example is a few years ago, a huge hype was there for WiMAX. Like WiMAX came backed by Intel. They said, okay, we are going to give you 50 meg, 50 kilometers, and huge hype was created. Then even my directors were asking me, what is your strategy for WiMAX? Of course, at that time, I must say I was happy because one of the vendors who was working with us, he asked me a very prudent question. He asked, what can WiMAX deliver for your customer that you are not delivering today? There was nothing, because whatever we were doing at that time could be done by WiMAX, so we didn't make that investment. But if we did make, like there were other companies that made huge investment, the investment was completely wiped out because the technology never worked properly. and other technologies overtook it. Like 3G came and wiped out the whole WiMAX market. All those who invested in WiMAX went out of business. I mean, went or lost that money. So similarly, we did other things also like that, where we were able to build little by little, and that way we insulated ourselves from making this huge investment. I think that was one of the things that helped us to survive. Other thing, of course, I always say what helped us to survive is that we have always been customer-centric, and we have tried to provide the customer cost-effective, good solution, which has stood us in good stead up to now. And this is what we still strive to do, is to provide a better service, not a cheaper service.
Any other questions for Rohit?
Yeah. Rohit, what are the biggest hurdle for run the internet exchange point in Sri Lanka? Because I'm not seeing a proper internet exchange point.
Yes.
So what are the biggest hurdles that the service providers they have for the internet exchange point?
At the internet exchange, it was a very challenging thing, because when we started it, I think late Professor Samannayaka headed the committee for a long time. This discussion went on for many years, because actually telecom is the dominant player. At that time, telecom was supposed to give the router. I mean, this was the thing. Then the question came, who is going to pay for the router? And this went on and on. So finally what happened was, at one point, because as Lankacom, we were paying huge money for international bandwidth just to send data up and down, which was going to other operators. So finally we said, okay, we will give this router free. Only thing is, whoever want, please pay for the line. If, like say Telecom or Dialog or whoever, they do their own lines, you can connect free of charge. If anybody else wants, they will have to pay us for the line. And we started like that. And even still it is being used. And of course today bandwidth is cheap, so it's not a big issue, but still there are efficiencies in using a local internet exchange.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, I think please give a big applause to Rohit, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, so actually now we have a number of other speakers lined up. Also, I want to actually just summarize from a few points from Rohit's last slide, the future, what we want to expect in the future, or what we have to expect in the future. One thing is, of course, he talked about cloud technology, and then he had something on IoT, and also he had something on things like network monitoring part as well. So these are some of the contents that we will be covering today, right? In the afternoon, in the evening sessions, we'll be covering. We'll have some focus. We'll have some panel discussions as well. Now, also, just to talk a little bit on the LKNOG side, so this time we are having this event as a one-day event, but eventually we want to have maybe more days, maybe 2 days, it could be 3 days. So we really want you to contribute to these contents. So I hope that even after this conference, you can be speakers, you can be resource people for these sort of conferences that what we do, right? So that's something we want to actually do in the future. So with that, I really want to thank our two keynote speakers, and we have some token of appreciation from LKNOG. So I'd like to invite Professor Gihan first for the are we ready with the? Okay, yeah. Okay, and also want to invite Rohit. And thanks again, Rohit, for your contribution as well. All right, I think now we have our next speaker, that's Asela, so he's already here. Now, Asela also has been involved with with the network operations for quite some time, quite a long time, I would say. So Asela has been with the SLT, and currently also he's the DG for technical operations over there. And so he will talk about IPv6 deployment. He will focus on a case study from SLT's perspective. So SLT has been, they have enabled the IPv6 network, the infrastructure, for quite some time. So I think he will have to share some very important operational considerations from IPv6 deployment. And thanks again, Asela, for that.